They didn't hear the warning, but they felt the shift. The kind that moves mountains, the kind that silences rooms. You didn't come back louder, you came back dangerous. Not reckless, not wild, but calculated, calm, unshakable. The version of you they prayed would never wake up is now wide awake, and he's not blinking. You see, this video isn't about proving them wrong. It's about becoming so undeniable that their words, their noise, their doubts don't even matter anymore. You've evolved beyond validation, beyond applause, beyond revenge. You're not chasing approval. You are the approval. You don't walk in like a storm. You are the eye of it. This is your silence. This is your presence. This is what happens when a calm mind carries a warrior's soul. Welcome to Twist Mind, where we don't rise to fit in. We rise to take over. They thought I was done, forgotten, silent. But this silence, it wasn't weakness, it was power in disguise. Today's not about noise, it's about presence. This is how your quiet becomes their chaos. This is the art of becoming undeniable without saying a word. They really believed you were done. Oh, the satisfaction they felt when you stumbled. When life hit you like a freight train and knocked every last ounce of breath out of your chest, they celebrated quietly, secretly. Some of them smiled when you weren't looking. Others offered you that fake sympathy, that oh-so-polite pity, just to watch you drown slower. They thought that moment your fall was the end of your story, that you'd stay there down in the dirt, broken and forgotten. They thought they had witnessed your final chapter. Curtains closed, lights out, done. But oh, if only they knew. Because what they didn't see, what they couldn't see, was the war that was raging behind your eyes. The kind of fire that doesn't scream, it simmers. The kind of pain that doesn't make noise, it builds pressure. They couldn't feel the thunder gathering in your chest. They couldn't hear the battle cry vibrating in your soul. They didn't understand that this silence, this stillness wasn't surrender, it was strategy. You weren't finished. You were transforming. They mistook your silence for weakness, your stillness for defeat. But in reality, you were rebuilding brick by brick, breath by breath. Every scar they thought marked your ending was actually a blueprint, a map leading you right back to power. Every tear they saw was fuel, every failure a foundation. You were never fragile. You were forging. And now the world is about to see what happens when someone wakes up in the middle of the fire and smiles. That smirk that comes not from arrogance but from survival, from knowing that you've already been through hell. And nothing can break you the same way twice. You know what it's like to feel alone, to be counted out, to stand there surrounded by silence, wondering if anyone even sees. But now you know you never needed them to. You needed the fall, you needed the fire, because it taught you who you really are. Let them talk, let them laugh, let them whisper in rooms you'll never enter again. Because while they're wasting breath on the old you, the new you is out here building an empire from the ashes. The same ashes they thought were the end of you. Wow, just think about it. The audacity of survival, the miracle of standing up again when everyone bet against you. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's you. You unbroken, even when they tried to shatter you. You stronger, even when life ripped the ground out from under your feet. You rising, not because it was easy, but because you refused to stay buried. Let that sink in. Feel it. Let your heartbeat drum like war. Because this version of you, this version doesn't seek approval. This version doesn't chase validation. This version of you knows that the ones who counted you out can't even count that high anymore. You're not the same, not even close. They thought it was over. They thought you were finished. And that's exactly why this comeback is gonna be legendary. They said you were done. They said you changed. They said the light in your eyes went out. And maybe they were right. Maybe something did die inside you. But not your soul, not your will. What died was the version of you that kept trying to fit into a system that was never designed for you. The obedient version, the one who begged to be seen, the one who thought love could be earned through sacrifice. That version, yeah, that one had to die, because what was born from that funeral wasn't weaker, it was untouchable. They thought your silence meant surrender, that you had nothing left to give, that the war was over. But silence isn't always the sound of retreat, it's the calm before the eruption. They forgot that a volcano doesn't scream while it's forming. It builds quietly, patiently, until the world forgets it's even there. And then it erupts. Your breakdown wasn't your ending. It was your evolution. The collapse wasn't a failure. It was architecture. You weren't destroyed. You were dismantled, so something more powerful could be constructed in your place. They didn't know the pain was designing something. They didn't know the darkness was writing your blueprint. Because in the ruins, something rare happened. The truth reveals itself. The fake friends vanish. The distractions burn away. And what's left is you raw, bloody, real. You stop caring about applause. You stop chasing validation. You realize that surviving the worst day of your life has a way of burning away the lies. What remains is honest, dangerous, and unstoppable. That's what they never understood. They thought they were watching a collapse, but they were witnessing your rebirth. They just didn't recognize it, because they expected pain to end you, not transform you. But you're the kind of person pain can't kill. The fire didn't melt you, it molded you. The pressure didn't crush you, it carved you. And the silence didn't break you. It introduced you to a voice deeper than any scream, your own. The one that doesn't need a crowd. The one that doesn't beg for mercy. The one that whispers, keep going, when everything else says quit. You became dangerous the moment you realized rock bottom wasn't the end. It was the ground floor of your new empire. And now you walk differently. You carry something in your eyes. A depth, a knowing. You've looked at hell and kept walking. You've been betrayed by people you would have died for. And you survived. That changes a person. That carves stories into your bones. That turns your name into a spell, a warning. They don't say your name the same anymore, do they? Because now they feel it. The weight, the fire, the edge in your presence. You used to make people comfortable. Now you make them nervous. You used to be soft. Now you're steel wrapped in silence. And you know what? That's your power. You don't need them to get it. You don't need them to approve. You didn't rise for applause. You rose because your soul wouldn't let you rot in pieces. You may have been broken, but now you are the storm. They can't predict, the force they can't contain, the reckoning they never saw coming. This is what becoming unbreakable looks like. They thought they were setting you on fire, tossing matches into the gasoline of your life like it was entertainment, laughing while your world went up in smoke. They called it chaos, You called it Tuesday because the truth is that fire, it didn't burn you, it built you, right? They were too naive to understand that some souls are forged in infernos. They thought the heat would make you scream, make you quit, make you shatter. But you weren't made of glass. You were made of something far more dangerous, something that doesn't melt, something that sharpens under pressure. You didn't just walk through the fire. You stood there, stared it down, and whispered, "Is that all you've got?" Because after everything, after every loss, every betrayal, every sleepless night with fists clenched and heart pounding, what did you discover? You don't break. You adapt. You don't fade. You evolve. While they waited for you to disappear, you were busy studying the storm. Memorizing the chaos. Preparing for your next move. You became fireproof. And let's be clear, they didn't hand you strength. You earned it in the dark. No audience, no applause. Just the sound of your own breathing while everything around you collapsed. That's when it happened, the tersement. When the world stepped back, thinking they'd won, and you stepped forward, not as the same person, but as something they'd never seen before. Something they couldn't name, something they couldn't control. You became a version of yourself you hadn't even met yet. Stronger, sharper, a little colder, yeah, but also a hell of a lot clearer. No more illusions. No more waiting to be saved. You realized that the only rescue coming was the one you'd launch from inside your own chest. And that's terrifying for them, because now every step you take is calculated. Every breath you take is proof that they fail. Every smile you wear isn't softness. It's survival. It's defiance dressed in calm. You're no longer walking to be accepted. You're walking to dominate. They still think you're healing, still think you're in recovery mode. Oh no, you're in weapon mode now. You're not rebuilding the old you. That version's gone. The one who hesitated, who trusted too easy, who apologized for shining too bright. That version died in the fire. What rose from the ashes, that's the problem. They don't even have a name for it. You don't just survive anymore, you haunt, you echo, you make the air shift when you enter a room. Not because you're loud, but because you carry the silence of someone who saw hell and built a home there. Now your peace is violent, your silence is tactical, your kindness is selective, and your energy doesn't come cheap anymore. You've stopped giving people the parts of you they tried to bury. You've learned to let them dig their own graves while you plant your roots deeper. And the wildest, you're just getting started. So let them wonder. Let them watch. Let them tell stories about how you changed. They'll never understand that you didn't change. You arrived. This is the era of your reign. Not because they gave you permission, but because they gave you pain, and you turned it into power. You know what they never prepared for? Night. You return, not the polite version of you, not the quiet, agreeable one they remembered. No, they weren't ready for this new version. The one born in fire, sharpened by betrayal and tempered by silence. They expected you to come back crawling, apologizing, shrinking. But what walked back into the room was a storm. You didn't just come back. You arrived. Different. Eyes sharper. Voice calmer. No need to prove anything. No desperation to explain. Just presence. Silent, confident presence. The kind that makes people sit up straighter. The kind that makes the room colder. The kind that doesn't ask for permission, but takes what it came for. Because now you've seen too much. You've bled too much. You've grown into someone who no longer plays by their rules. Because you've written your own. You no longer beg for a seat at their table. You are the table. And suddenly the ones who used to look down on you, they're nervous, confused, threatened, because they can't manipulate a person who's already made peace with pain. They can't intimidate someone who's already survived their worst-case scenario. You don't raise your voice anymore. Not because you're afraid, but because your silence carries weight. You don't chase closure anymore. Not because you're over it, but because you realized some stories don't deserve ending. You've stopped defending yourself. Because truth doesn't need a lawyer, and your scars already tell the story. This isn't revenge, it's resurrection. And the ones who once underestimated you, they feel it now, in your energy, in your stillness, in the way you enter a space like you own it. Not because of ego, but because you earned it. Through every sleepless night, through every betrayal, through every you're not enough that you swallowed and turned into fuel. They see it in your eyes, that you're not here to fit in anymore. You're here to build something they'll never understand. You're no longer chasing validation. You've become the kind of person who validates themselves. And that kind of power, it's terrifying to the weak. It's blinding to the fake. It's threatening to the manipulative. Let them whisper. Let them stare. Let them wonder how the hell you survived what was meant to kill you and came back louder, bolder, colder. You walk differently now, like someone who knows they've already walked through hell barefoot. You talk differently now, like someone who knows the value of every single word. You live differently now, like someone who doesn't just exist to survive but to conquer. You're no longer defined by what broke you. You're defined by what couldn't keep you down. And every time they look at you now, they're reminded, pain didn't destroy you. It built a version of you they can't reach anymore. One they can't control. One they can't break again. You didn't just return. You became. Let's make something clear. You're no longer the example they use when they say, don't end up like that. You're no longer the broken chapter they point to and say, see? That's what happens when you fall too hard, care too much, or dream too big. Now, you're the standard. Now they look at you and whisper, how the hell did they pull that off? They don't say it out loud, of course. Cowards never do. But you feel it in the way their voices tremble when they talk about you, in the way they hesitate before mentioning your name because they're not sure if they should feel proud or threatened. You've become the living proof that failure isn't fatal, that silence isn't surrender, and that scars don't mean you're weak. They mean you survived something most people never could. They used to tell stories about you, sad ones. Warning, tragedies wrapped in gossip. Now they tell stories of you, trying to make it sound like they always believed, like they were part of it. But deep down, they know. They weren't rooting for you. They were waiting for you to stay broken. And now you walk like you know you changed the narrative. Now you talk like someone who paid full price for their peace. and refuses to rent it out again. You've stopped explaining. You've stopped shrinking. You've stopped translating your worth to people who couldn't read it if it was tattooed on your skin. You became a legend, not because someone handed it to you, but because you built it out of every piece they tried to bury. People feel your story now, not just hear it. They don't admire you for what you have. They respect you for what you endured. They don't clap because you're successful. They clap because they thought you were gone, but you returned as a goddamn blueprint. Now others look to you, not as a broken thing, but as a path, a process, a possibility. They follow you now, not because you begged them to, but because they realize you became everything they prayed you wouldn't. And that is how the warning turned into the standard. You don't even have to speak anymore. You walk into the room and the whole temperature changes. The vibe, different. The air, thicker. The silence, louder. Why? Because your presence does what their performance never could. See, they used to overlook you back when you were doubting yourself. Back when your hands were shaking and your voice cracked when you spoke your dreams into existence. They laughed then. They dismissed you then. They didn't fear you. Not yet. But now, now they feel you, not because you became loud, but because you became undeniable. Not because you forced your way in, but because the door had to open when your name came up. You're not asking to be seen anymore. You're not auditioning. You're not begging for a seat. You are the table. And let's be honest, most of them aren't ready for that. Because it's one thing to mock someone while they're climbing. It's another thing entirely to watch them build a kingdom on the very stones thrown at them. You became the plot twist they never saw coming. The one who wasn't supposed to make it. The one they all counted out. And now you're counting zeros on contracts, checks, and the number of people who suddenly want to catch up. You move with a calm now, that calm that only comes from surviving storms they couldn't even spell. That calm that makes insecure people nervous. Because it's not fake. It's not loud. It's earned. You don't flinch anymore. You don't need applause. You don't chase validation. You show up and the room adjusts to you. And the ones who used to talk the loudest, now they look away. They lower their voices. Because somewhere inside them they know. You didn't just survive. You transformed. And now, even the walls whisper your name with respect. They wanted a version of you that would stay small. One that whispered instead of roared. One that bowed instead of stood. But life didn't design you like that. No, you were born from the fire, crafted through every crack, every fracture, every scream. And while they danced in comfort, you bled in silence. You built in the dark. You suffered where no one watched. But here's the twist. You didn't break. You didn't fade. You evolved, like a shadow gaining mass, becoming solid, becoming real. And now you don't chase rooms. Rooms wait for you, because your silence is no longer absence. It's energy. It's pressure. It's that unexplained pull when you walk in. They can't put words to it, but they feel it in their skin. You move different because you are different. built different, born again through rejection, sharpened by pain. You don't flinch at disrespect, you just smile, because you know they're playing checkers while you're moving pieces in a different game. A game of strategy, a game of patience, a game of revenge without raising your voice. Because the new you doesn't need noise. The new you doesn't need crowds. The new you became the standard. They thought you disappeared. Nah, you were just gathering yourself, pulling back your power like a wave before the crash. And now you're the storm they prayed wouldn't come. Not because you're angry, but because you're focused, dangerous, disciplined. You don't threaten, you remind them what happens when silence learns how to walk, when pain learns how to speak, when chaos learns how to breathe in rhythm. You're not the villain, you're just the consequence, the delayed response to years of being doubted. And no, you're not giving them a show, you are the show, unfolding one moment at a time. Every step you take makes the ground remember your name. They don't clap now, they freeze. They wonder how you did it, how someone they threw dirt on planted roots and bloomed right in front of them, without asking, without warning. You didn't just survive the dark, you decorated, built a kingdom there. And now when the light hits you, it hits different, because you earned that light. Every beam, every spotlight, you turned pressure into power, silence into strength. And now even the ones who forgot your name say it with hesitation, with regret, because they know you didn't need them. You needed the silence. You needed the solitude. You needed the pain to create something immortal, something that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, just exists. Loudly, quietly, unapologetically. They used to call you crazy. Now they call you unstoppable. But the truth, you were always this. They just weren't ready to see it. And maybe they still aren't, but that's not your problem anymore. Because kings don't announce themselves. Empires don't need validation. And silence, real silence, it doesn't mean weakness. It means war is coming, and it's dressed in your skin. They wanted a version of you that would stay small. One that whispered instead of roared. One that bowed instead of stood. But life didn't design you like that. No, you were born from the fire, crafted through every crack, every fracture, every scream. And while they danced in comfort, you bled in silence. You built in the dark. You suffered where no one watched. But here's the twist. You didn't break. You didn't fade. You evolved, like a shadow gaining mass, becoming solid, becoming real. And now you don't chase rooms. Rooms wait for you, because your silence is no longer absence. It's energy. It's pressure. It's that unexplained pull when you walk in. They can't put words to it, but they feel it in their skin. You move different, because you are different, built different, born again through rejection, sharpened by pain. You don't flinch at disrespect, you just smile, because you know they're playing checkers, while you're moving pieces in a different game. A game of strategy, a game of patience, a game of revenge without raising your voice. Because the new you doesn't need noise. The new you doesn't need crowds. The new you became the standard. They thought you disappeared. Nah, you were just gathering yourself, pulling back your power like a wave before the crash. And now you're the storm they prayed wouldn't come. Not because you're angry, but because you're focused, dangerous, disciplined. You don't threaten, you remind them what happens when silence learns how to walk, when pain learns how to speak, when chaos learns how to breathe in rhythm. You're not the villain, you're just the consequence, the delayed response to years of being doubted. And no, you're not giving them a show, you are the show, unfolding one moment at a time. Every step you take makes the ground remember your name. They don't clap now, they freeze. They wonder how you did it, how someone they threw dirt on planted roots and bloomed right in front of them, without asking, without warning. You didn't just survive the dark, you decorated, built a kingdom there. And now when the light hits you, it hits different, because you earned that light. Every beam, every spotlight, you turned pressure into power, silence into strength. And now even the ones who forgot your name say it with hesitation, with regret, because they know you didn't need them. You needed the silence. You needed the solitude. You needed the pain to create something immortal, something that doesn't beg, doesn't explain, just exists, loudly, quietly, unapologetically. They used to call you crazy. Now they call you unstoppable. But the truth, you were always this. They just weren't ready to see it. And maybe they still aren't, but that's not your problem anymore. Because kings don't announce themselves. Empires don't need validation. And silence, real silence, it doesn't mean weakness. It means war is coming, and it's dressed in your skin. So now they see it, the fire they tried to bury, the silence they thought meant defeat. It was never weakness. It was a warning, a countdown, a quiet storm waiting to strike. And now, it's too late to run. You didn't shout. You didn't beg. You transformed. You mastered the war within. You became the very thing they couldn't understand. Unbreakable, untouchable, unstoppable. Let them wonder. Let them whisper, because what you've built in the shadows now shines so loud, it can't be ignored. They thought you were done? Nah, you were just learning how to destroy quietly. This is the rise. This is the moment. This is your new era. The world doesn't need to clap, because you clap for your damn self now. You are no longer chasing. You are leading. And from this point forward, it's twist mind time.